All right. Hello from California. Bill here. I'm going to do things a little bit differently today. Welcome to Money Talks. We're going to do an AMA first because I know right now all you guys want to do is just ask your questions, have them answered, and I can't blame you. So we're going to get into that right away. After that, for those who hopefully want to stick around, we will have Amit Sinha from our trading team here to talk about OTC and what we're seeing in the markets, and also answer some questions specific to that we don't get to during the AMA. Okay. All right. So you guys have been sending in questions for quite a while. I've got a huge list here. There's some repeats, so I'll try to not repeat, but keep teeing up the questions. If there's anything good to inject, we'll add them to the list as well. All right. So, all right, let me start out. Just going to keep kind of reading here. If you hear some clicking, it's just me responding to questions coming in from my team. So I apologize for the clicking sound. Can you explain the difference between Abra Trade, Abra Boost, and how you manage reserves for both? Sure. So Abra Trade is obviously your ability to custody your crypto, exchange it between assets, deposit money from your bank account or potentially from a credit card. We support the ability to deposit from bank accounts all over the world now. So, if you're in the US, you'll see US specific features. If you're outside the US, you can click on credit card. Anyway, so that's trade. Boost is the new program for earning yield, which is available outside the US in most countries, as well as to accredited investors in the US. If you had the old Abra Earn program and you're not an accredited investor, you do have Abra Boost, you're just not, and your assets are still there earning interest, you're just not able to make new deposits. So that's the difference. The way we manage reserves is very simple. Abra Trade is 100% reserves all the time. Actually, it's a little bit more than 100% because we actually maintain a little bit of reserves to give some of you real-time access to ACH deposits in the US, and other kind of nuances to the system. So usually it's 100%, a little bit more than 100%. What that means in simple English is that if you're holding crypto, stable coins, whatever, in Abra Trade, and you try to withdraw to an external crypto wallet, you have 24/7 access to be able to process those withdrawals. Okay. And that should never change. All right. And by the way, later on in the show, we'll talk about the upgrade to Abra Trade, which is now live for all of you. So that's great. You should be seeing the new price protection, market order features, and we'll come back to that. All right. I want to focus on the AMA right now. And then in terms of Abra Boost, okay, there you're actually investing your crypto to earn interest on your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your stable coins, and you can see the rates in the app. Some of you invest in Abra Boost through the app, and then some of you who work with our private banking team invest in Abra Boost for term rates outside of the app. You may make a 3-month or a 6-month or a 12-month deposit in order to earn potentially higher yields. So all of you are doing that through the app mostly, and then some of you are doing it directly with the Abra sales team. Those of you doing this through the app, if you're familiar with the terms of service, you have 7-day access to your funds. We've never violated that. I use Abra Boost. I use it through the app, just like most of you. And in general, I've never had it take more than 2 days to do a withdrawal from Abra Boost. And we maintain reasonable reserves and liquidity across all of the coins that we trade there. And I'm sure all of you who use the product can attest, there's never been a delay in terms of doing a withdrawal. And if you make a deposit, I believe you start earning interest the very next day. Okay, so it's a very simple product. We invest in myriad activities in order to generate the yield. I've talked about this in many earlier episodes of Money Talks. I see a question here on risk management. I'll come back to that in a minute. I'm going to specifically address risk. I just wanted to answer the question on trade boost and reserves. Another key difference for Abra is I'm here. I'm actually standing here answering your questions, not because there's issues in the market. It's because it's something that I've done almost every single Friday for the last 3 years. I believe we've done over 120 episodes of this. I was trying to find out the exact number and I couldn't. There's too many and not all of them are on a podcast, so I couldn't count. But anyway, I believe it's over 120. So this is not new for us. We do this when things are great. We do it when there's issues in the market. We do it when our competitors are having issues. And that's what transparency means. Transparency doesn't just mean, you have record revenues, you come on YouTube and you brag about it. That's not what transparency means to us. Okay. I mentioned I'll come back. There's some questions here about the new version of Abra Trade. I want to come back to that in a second. All right, so there was another question here about how withdrawals work with Trade and Boost. I believe I just answered that. If you have any follow-up questions for that, come back. So some of you are saying that you may have an issue converting your Abra Trade or Abra USD, excuse me, to stablecoins. The only way to convert Abra USD to stablecoin is when you withdraw. All stablecoins that you deposit, let me just back up a second. All of the USD stablecoins that are dollar-based, USDC, USDP, I think I'm forgetting one, are all converted to Abra USD now in the app. They're actually really not converted. It just represents your balance, okay? And it's just there. And you can convert that Abra USD to any crypto asset you want. When you withdraw Abra USD, you can choose to withdraw as the same stable coin that you deposited or one of the other stable coins, and there's no cost and there's no spread. Okay, so it's a very simple way to manage your balance. You don't need to do a trade between Abra USD and other stablecoins in the app. It doesn't help you at all. You simply choose which type of stablecoin you want to have when you withdraw. Okay, so that was kind of another question that was somewhat related to this withdraw issue. So I have a question here on what's next for CPerks. I wasn't really planning to focus on CPerks today, just giving everything going on in the markets. I'm going to come back to CPerks in a little bit. I am willing to talk about it, but I'll come back to that. So let me see here. So let's talk about FTX for a minute. I see a few questions here on FTX, and then I see a question here on Genesis. So is FTX an investor in Abra? Do I think SBF should be arrested? Look, FTX is not an investor in Abra. That's easy. I think I've told you all in previous episodes, I've spoken to Sam, I think 2 or 3 times via DM on social media. I've never met him. I've never spoken to him live. My guess is that the level of fraud here, based upon all the reporting that I've seen on social media, it goes wide and deep with him and probably a couple others in the company. I find it hard to believe that that's not criminal. I'm not a lawyer. I don't play one on TV, but my impression is that this is both. Anyway, yes, I do believe that this is criminal, and I would be shocked if someone didn't get arrested for this. You cannot steal consumer funds to basically give them arbitrarily to another company. As I told you, Abra Trade maintains 100% reserves, and there's a reason for that. Not only is it ethically the right thing to do, it's a legal requirement. You have to do that. Boost and earn programs are a different story because you're making an investment. Okay. All right. We'll come back to FTX in a minute, but that's my initial feeling there. I'm not going to answer questions about why I think this happened or what actually happened at FTX. There are 150 tweet storms online that do a really good job of explaining what happened at FTX. It's not really why I'm here. Okay, why should I trust Abra? All right, that's a good one. All right, so here's how I look at it, right? So as I said, first of all, I'm here. All right, I don't know how many of you are able to get online every single week and ask the exec team of the company you're working with whatever question you want and put the exec team either on the hot seat or however you want to refer to it. So that's one thing. And we really believe in transparency at Abra. And if things were bad, I would tell you they were bad, right? And I'm telling you, Abra is open for business as usual. We manage risk, which I'll talk about in a second. And we're open for you 24/7, right? We actually have a support team that responds when you have a problem. We have a risk management team that's meeting constantly to look at what's going on in the markets. We have a sales team for our private banking folks where you actually can text them and you call them and they actually respond to you, right? And this is why millions of you have trusted Abra. And like I said, we're still here. So, this is kind of related to another question that I see coming up on the list here about whether Abra should buy assets from Celsius, Voyager, and BlockFi, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know, but yeah. So there was a question about FTX relationship with Abra's hedge funds and investment funds. So Abra has a partial ownership in a separate investment fund unrelated to all the products that all of you use, and that fund did have some of its funds on FTX. It was a relatively reasonable. It was about I don't remember the exact percentage, but it was a reasonable amount. Doesn't affect Abra at all. The people who are investors in those funds have been contacted. If they have any other questions, they can reach out to me directly. They know how to reach me directly. None of that affects Abra. Okay, so what about Prime Trust? So Abra uses Prime Trust today to process wires and withdrawals. We no longer custody any assets on Prime Trust. If you initiate an ACH in the US or a domestic or international bank wire, those funds flow through Prime Trust, and then they're moved into stablecoins, which are then stored in your Abra app with 100% reserves in Abra Trade, as I mentioned before, unless, of course, you then move them into Abra Boost and you're making an investment. So we don't have any permanent exposure as a company to Prime Trust at this point in terms of custody. So hopefully that answers your question there. There's a question about Skybridge, which is Anthony Scaramucci. I know Anthony. We don't have any relationship with Skybridge. I think Skybridge was bought by FTX. I'm not even like, I think they were. I'm pretty sure they were bought by FTX. I feel horrible that Anthony seems like a nice guy, and it's his life's work that he kind of got duped into this. And I hope it works out for him, that maybe he can get the company back. We have no relationship with them. We did sponsor the SALT conference back in early September, but we have no relationship with his company, or, as I said, we have no relationship with FTX. They're not an investor in us. We're not an investor in them. And I've only met Sam online a couple of times. Okay, so hopefully that clarifies that. Okay, I mentioned I would talk about risk. How does Abra measure risk for generating income on crypto deposits? So obviously this refers to Abra Boost. We don't pay yield on Abra Trade. Abra Trade is simply 100% reserves, and you have 24/7 access to deposit and withdrawal. And by the way, we're seeing deposits and withdrawals. The last probably couple of months, we had more deposits than withdrawals. Slowed down a little bit, obviously, this week with the FTX news, but we're definitely still seeing a lot of you moving off of exchanges into Abra, and we appreciate that. And we continue to plan on, business as usual. So thanks for that. All right, back to the question. How does Abra measure risk for generating income on crypto deposits? So I'm not sure about measuring risk, but let me talk about how risk management at Abra works. So when you are putting money to work to generate income on crypto deposits, this is not meant to be a speculative investment, meaning it's not like investing in stocks where our intent is to say, okay, we want an outsized return, and as a result, we're willing to take principal risk. The principle is your crypto. You're already taking risk by holding crypto in the first place, independent of Abra, right? And so our goal is to not put principal at risk, and as a result, we aim not to take speculative investment. And as a result, generally what you see is a combination of lending into very high grade counterparties. The majority of our counterparties now are traditional finance firms, meaning not crypto native. And so that's a difference from where we were this point last year. So earlier this year, we actually changed significantly how we work with counterparties. And we went from, in the early days, you really didn't have a choice because traditional finance firms were not involved in the crypto space. Well, I can tell you they are now. And so Abra has been able to onboard many of those companies. We have a wonderful reputation in that world, and it's really helped us even improve. We were already doing a good job last year when I was talking to you on Money Talks, but we've taken it to another level because we're able to work with these, we call them TradFi, or traditional financial firms, who have crypto arms now. And so you're often able to get access to massive balance sheets, which is obviously a big win for all of us because it lowers the risk profile dramatically. And then we have to look at things that I've talked about before, about concentration risk, about duration risk. Concentration risk is basically what killed Voyager. Voyager had, I think, like 50 or 60% of all of their interest earning assets with Three Arrows, I think it was. And, Gemini announced they had 100% of their earn program in Genesis. I didn't know that. That's not really a good idea for being any one company. And we don't do that, right? So we try very hard to spread it around. The bigger you get, the easier it becomes to spread it around. And that's very important to us. And so then duration risk refers to how long of a timeline the investments are valid for or locked up for versus my access to withdraw, right? So if you have 7-day access as a consumer, for example, or accredited investor, which is what our terms of service say, and all of the loans, for example, have a locked up for 6 months, that's a problem. That's a mismatch. You're not insolvent. It's just that if people are trying to withdraw, you don't have the money. And so you have to be very careful in setting up duration correctly for these type of programs. And other companies have had problems, as you've seen, when they refer to, first of all, if you say you have a liquidity problem on your trading accounts, you have a big problem because you're not maintaining enough reserves. That's a different issue, okay? If you have a liquidity problem on withdrawing consumer funds from a boost or a yield program, that's because you most likely have a duration mismatch, meaning you've made loans that go way out on the duration curve, but you're giving people real-time access to funds. You need to take the duration curve way down to be in line with when people have access to funds. And that's something that Abra's done a very good job of. So those are just a couple of examples of how we deal with risk. All right. So look, I'm also seeing a bunch of support questions here. I'm really focused today on the specific issues you have here. If you have support questions, please please send them to support. I see the support team is online here, and they will help. Oh, you know what? There's a question that just came in. I'm going to take this out of order because I was planning to address it and I forgot. The question is Abra planning to implement proof of reserves? So let me just clarify one thing before I explain the answer to this. Abra is not an exchange. We don't maintain hot wallets online like, let's say, Binance or Celsius, right? So we actually use third parties and custodians who have omnibus accounts for the trading accounts, specifically the trading accounts, because those are always online in order for you to trade, right, and process withdrawals. And when I say always online, I mean accessible. Obviously, they're not sitting there on the internet for people to just come in and take funds out. They're under lock and key, but they're managed in omnibus accounts where there's not just a hot wallet that we can publish online. So that having been said, the answer is yes, we want to publish proof of reserves, and we're working on a model for doing it that makes sense given that we're not an exchange and our systems don't work the same way as an exchange. I would actually claim that they're more secure for the most part, but that doesn't really matter to most of you right now. I'm simply saying that we do want to basically do proof of reserves for Abra trade. Now for Boost and Earn, as I said, a lot of those funds are being lent out, and so you can basically say, okay, X% is in reserves. And so the bottom line is we are doing it. We're working on the mechanism for how. We've finishing up a massive audit of our financials because of the formation of Abra Bank. And as a startup, usually you don't get audits, but we're going back a couple of years now doing the audits. The process seems to be going well. We were going to wait to manage the proof of reserve process until after the audit was done, but I don't think we're going to do that now. I think we're going to try to figure out how to publish the proof of reserves faster and figure out a model for doing that. And yes, I agree. Somebody just posted security is job one. And I completely agree. Okay, so look, we also have a team that monitors Twitter. If you're not getting a response, usually my experience, because I use the support team as well, and they don't know who I am, so I don't get I often don't get any White Cliff treatment. I usually get a response in a few hours, but we certainly will get back to you in 24 hours. All right, so I wanted to get back to the list here. I am FTX. Is FTX an investor? I already addressed that. Is now a good time to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum? Let me hold off on the macro stuff for a minute. I want to focus on what's happening with Abra and contagion specific questions. Seeing questions here about CPerks, Julian, Amex. Let me push that down the list for a bit. Let me talk about, I'm getting a bunch of questions here on the new version of Abra Trade. So Abra Trade is fully live for everyone now. The new version of Abra Trade, if you go into the app, make sure you have the latest version installed. You'll see the price protection features. You'll see Abra USD. We've talked about the Abra USD many times. Abra USD is simply a single balance representing all the stable coins that you deposited into Abra. And then when you withdraw it, you can choose which stablecoin you want to withdraw. So you can kind of get like a free conversion between stablecoins, which is pretty cool. Tether is managed separately. That's its own balance in the Abra app. We keep Tether separate because it's not a US-based stablecoin. It's managed internationally. So we group the US-based stablecoins into Abra USD. Okay. When is the Abra Bank going to be launched? And is the launch of Abra Bank affected by the events of the past week? So we've been in regular contact with the regulators with whom we're working on the formation of Abra Bank. The process is moving forward. There's been no delay. And obviously having a regulated bank that is not doing fractional reserve banking with crypto is a big win for the space, right? So let me address this part of it, right? If you're a regulator or a series of regulators across different states, what would you rather have? Because crypto is not going away. Would you rather have a company that is fully regulated as a bank, that's committed to maintaining 100% reserves, that doesn't do fractional reserve banking like a regular bank, right? And has to be public and transparent about all these things? Or would you rather have some offshore entity managing somehow to get US consumers on board, even though they're not supposed to, and is operating, as a bunch of cowboys and cowgirls in the crypto space, right? So I think the answer is pretty obvious. And I think as a result, you're going to see other companies mirror the Abra model for doing this, okay? And I think that's why we're going to get the bank license. I don't see any slowdown in the process. And if that changes, I will certainly tell you, right? And we have no reason to believe otherwise. And that includes our Abra international license as well, okay? So the process is going great. The legal teams and the product teams that have been involved have really crushed it as far as I can tell. Okay. Do I think CZ purposefully brought down FTX? No, that's ridiculous. I don't think he had the ability to bring down FTX. I think FTX brought down themselves with their insane, irresponsible, outright disgusting business practices, not even business practices, just fraud. You cannot take reserves from a trading account and give them to someone else. It's just dumb. I mean, come on, guys, it's crazy. CZ had nothing to do with that. I mean, he looked at what was going on behind the scenes and said, nobody can fix this. This needs to be fixed in bankruptcy. And he was probably right. Do I believe Gemini is going to survive? Are they next? I think Gemini is going to be fine. I know they've had a lot of withdrawals this week. So look, Gemini has their trading exchange, and then they had their earn program. Their exchange is 100% reserves. I know Cam and Ty, they're very, very conservative when it comes to compliance. So I'm not in the company. I don't see day to day, but I'd be shocked if Gemini wasn't acting 100% above board on their exchange. On their earn program, they did outsource that to Genesis, which I did not completely know. I knew that they were using Genesis. I didn't realize they used it for 100%. I talked about that before. I guess if you're disclosing to your clients that you're outsourcing the program to one company and they know that they're taking that risk when they deposit into their yield program, I suppose that's okay. I honestly don't know if they did that. If they didn't, probably not a good thing. But I hope and that it works out. Look, let me talk about Genesis for a second. We know them very well. They're good guys. I think that what happened is they have this duration mismatch that I talked about before. I think the assets are there. I think the company is ultimately, look, I could be completely wrong here. I think the assets are there. I think the company is going to be fine. And I think they're going to have to basically fix this duration issue, especially if Gemini is their biggest client on the retail side. If you're giving your clients real-time access to their earned deposits, but Genesis's loans go out for months or a year, there's a mismatch there, and they have to fix that. And my guess is that they're working to fix that now. So, I based on what I've seen, I do think Genesis is going to be fine. If I'm wrong, we'll come back on here and you all can lay into me and it's totally fine. But based on what I'm seeing right now, I have no reason to suspect that what's going on at Genesis. I believe they're completely solvent. I think they have way more assets on Genesis than they do liabilities, based on what I've seen. And I'm guessing they just have to fix this duration issue in terms of access versus, okay. Let's see. Let me come back here to some earlier questions. Great questions, guys. Keep them coming. Nick says, thank you for being available, and the transparency. This is what we do. Again, we've done this, I think, over 120 times in the last 2.5 years, and I'm not going anywhere, folks. Unless the Lord decides to take me, I am not going anywhere. I love the idea of bringing a crypto bank to the public and leveraging all the tenets of decentralization and making it part of the future of banking. I think that if Abra can, over the next couple of years, really push the envelope and bring decentralized systems as the back end for earning yield, as the back end for trading, and these things aren't ready for prime time yet, but they're going to get there. When that happens, the level of transparency that I'll be able to bring you in that stuff is better even than me coming on Money Talks, right? And you don't have to see my mug every week. You can literally just go on a Twitter feed and see the numbers, because everything is transparent. All right. Let's see. So when are NFTs coming to Abra? Okay, I don't mind answering it now. I wasn't planning to, but we are on track to launch NFTs. We're going to be beta in the feature pretty soon. I'm going to be talking about it more. Let me address ePerks as part of the same thing. So on Friday, December 2nd, we'll be doing an episode of Money Talks with Julian Hardy from the Crypto Banking Alliance via Art Basel, and we'll be talking about cPerks, NFTs, what's next there. Hopefully a couple of interesting announcements, and so stay tuned for that. And so we told you that it would be coming after the new version of Abra Trade was brought to you, and it's coming. So the target date, I'm just looking at the calendar over here on my left screen. Yeah, Friday, December 2nd version of Money Talks should have, I think I got that right. Yeah, Julian Hardy tends to be on, and we'll give you some updates there. I know there's a lot of work that's been going on in the background, and I know we're excited to dig in, and a lot more work to come on the NFT and cPerks front, and the two are a little related now. And so, yeah. All right. Let's see. So that is talked about the new version of Abra Trade. So if you're just joining, I'm not going to repeat the same questions. You can go back after the show and watch the beginning. And so I already talked about the release of Abra Trade. I'll talk about some more details in the news section after the AMA. We're already at 30 minutes, folks. This is flying by. I don't mind doing. I'll even stay longer today if we have to. I just want to try to get through this. Why did Binance stop USD withdrawal support on Solana? I have no idea. I'll speculate if you want me to. I mean, it's probably better to ask CZ online than me. I am guessing that the demand for USDC on Solana is pretty thin right now, just given that their volumes are down, and it probably isn't worth them maintaining the reserves that they have to maintain to manage it. I have no other insight other than that. Obviously, they have no horse in the race, whether it's Ethereum or Solana. Obviously, they like BSC, their Binance chain, but if it's going to be something else, my guess is they don't care. If the demand was there, I don't see why they would turn it off. But I don't speak for Binance. You have to ask them. But that would be my guess. And what about the American Express card? Yeah, so it's looking good. We're going to be testing it internally next few weeks, and yeah, I'm smiling because it's one of the bright spots. One of the bright spots in everything going on right now in this market is I'm really excited about this product. Look, this relates a little bit to the block. I see a BlockFi question here. What are my thoughts on BlockFi's situation? Again, like everything else, I don't own BlockFi. I don't have any, insights specifically. I will say that, we would like, and I'll say this about Celsius, Voyager, BlockFi, we're interested in helping. We have, in a couple of cases, contacted and have been contacted by creditors to those companies. We don't mind you guys reaching out. Our heart goes out to you if you're affected there. We would like to help. We don't yet know if and how we can help, whether it means acquiring the lending book, acquiring the assets, acquiring the credit card business. BlockFi does not own the credit card business. It's owned by another company, which works with, I think it's Goldman Sachs, to issue the cards. It's unclear what's going to happen there. We'd love to take it over and help if we can. But anyway, we would love to help. I do think BlockFi is going to have to file, based on what I've heard, for bankruptcy. I don't think they have yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in the next 2 or 3 business days they're forced to file, and it's really a shame. I think they're good folks who just got caught up in a couple of very bad moves from a risk perspective, going back to 3AC earlier this year, and they just shouldn't have happened. All right. Mark asks, are we threatened by Genesis? Sorry if I wasn't more clear earlier, Mark. We are not threatened by Genesis. We know them, but we work with them, but we don't have any meaningful exposure to Genesis. So sorry if I wasn't more clear on that earlier. I'm answering so many questions here. I may have in my head thought I answered it and not. So anyway, a couple of macro questions here. Do I think there's going to be a recession? We're going to have someone on from the Abra team. Amit's going to join us after the AMA, and we're going to talk about Abra Trade, and we'll get into that with Amit, because I think he does trading commentary for some of our top clients that I asked him to come in today, just given everything going on, and talk about our OTC desk and what's going on there. Let me go back to finish some of these questions, and I've been jumping around, so I'm going to go back through your list here. Keep your questions coming. It's okay. Is CZ my friend? I've never spoken to CZ. I don't know CZ. I don't even know if he knows who Bill is, to be honest with you. I have no idea if he's ever even heard of Abra or me. I'm guessing he knows Abra. I have no idea, but no, I've never spoken to him. We are in a chat room together, but online, but we've never spoken directly, and we've never communicated directly. I'd love to talk to him sometime. He seems like an interesting guy, and obviously what he's done with Binance is incredible. All right, so I have a family trust, and I'd like to invest in Abra Boost. How do I do this? Great question. If you go to abra.com, and I'll show you here. This is something that we can help you with, and this is a good way if you're getting off of exchanges to protect your assets. We've had a lot of deposits this week from people coming, actually the last 100 days of people coming off of exchanges, and we welcome that. Yeah, so let me just bring this up here. So if you go to our website, and Mr. Wizard, maybe you can bring the website up on the screen here for everyone. You can see that there's 3 types of users: individuals, private clients, institutions. If you're a family office or you have a trust for your family in the US, you click on private clients, which I just did here. You can contact the team and you'll basically get set up with a relationship management person to get your trust or family office set up in crypto. You can earn yield. You can get set up for trading for large bulk buys, which we'll talk about with Amit in a couple of minutes. Okay, so that's the question on. I'll leave the website up for a second here. I think there was an institutional question. You know what? No, I'll stop this. It's fine. All right, so I'm going to take, let's say, 2 or 3 more questions. Yeah. So people complaining about BlockFi's credit card program. Hope Abra's is better. I've never used BlockFi's credit card program. I know if we did ever get to the point where we acquired it, we'd obviously migrate it to be similar terms to ours because we like what we're doing there. So, but like I said, I mean, nothing to announce. I don't really know. I have no insight as to their own process for, where they're at, but I suspect it's not good. Paul, I did see your question come in at the bottom of the screen here. I wasn't planning to address IRAs today. It is definitely going to happen. It will be 23 when it happens, not 22. I hope it will be this year. But just given the craziness of the market, we've really focused a lot of our product team efforts on making sure that we remain unaffected by everything going on. So, and Abra Trade was the new version of Abra Trade was obviously a little bit delayed, although it's live for all of you now. What are my thoughts on DeFi, and will Abra work in that space? So Pluto, Abra already does work in DeFi. So we do generate yield through DeFi. It's probably the smallest allocation we make versus lending, which is a bigger allocation. The reason is that it's much more complicated from a risk management perspective. So we'll often take positions and then and then come out relatively quickly, just because we're worried about liquidity or other issues, and we do our best to make sure. We've never been affected, to my knowledge, by like a rug pull or anything like that, where I know others have, and we're always sensitive to the concentration risk issue that I've talked about before. Now, that having been said, many of you have come to us and said, I would like to allocate through Abra to very specific DeFi opportunities. So that is something that we will eventually do, and it will work similar to how our NFT product works, where you'll have your own dedicated key/wallet that you don't have to worry about how it works, but it'll be dedicated to you, and then you'll be able to make specific DeFi allocations to a liquidity pool or a lending opportunity, whatever. Okay. All right. So Rob asks, who is Plutus Lending, and do they take control of the collateral with loans? Plutus Lending is part of Abra. So we have a holding company, and it has different operating companies underneath. And Plutus Lending is the group that actually manages the lending. That's it. There's nothing more to it than that. And basically, the risks management is exactly the same as I described. That's just the legal entity within the Abra umbrella that manages the lending of the assets. That's all that is. Okay. All right. I'm going on 40 minutes AMA here. I'm going to take 2 more questions, and then we're going to bring Amit on. He's been waiting patiently. We talked about Amex card. Do I think there's going to be a recession? I think we've been in a recession, and I think the definition has been changing constantly by the powers that be to suit their purposes. And, it's infuriating to see how the Fed has fucked this up and how bad and asleep at the wheel they are in terms of what's going on, both in terms of getting us into this mess in the first place and also overshooting the mark and trying to get us out of it. What was the comment I saw earlier? If you add in the bond markets, we've now seen the largest capital destruction as a percentage of GDP in the last 50 years, certainly bigger than 2008. That is insane. Okay. So, anyway. We'll talk about that with Amit in a minute. So we can debate whether we're in a recession all day or not, but in terms of economic destruction, credit tightening, we've never seen anything like it. I'm 54 years old. I've certainly never seen anything like it. I remember waiting online as a little kid, to get gas in my mom's car, and all the things that came with the recession and the crazy interest rates when Reagan took office. And this feels worse in terms of the actual credit tightening and capital destruction going on. But that means that at some point, yes, the Fed gets an F, but at some point when they actually get it, the reversal is going to be dramatic. And that's why I think a lot of the commentary that I see from these Fed folks that says, we're still worried about inflation, I think it's nonsense. I think we're going to see a negative print on inflation at some point next year. And everybody's going to be asking how they could have gotten it so wrong for so long. All right. I promised you one more question. Let me go. I have a long list here, but I'm going to go back to the live feed and see if there's one that I missed. Let me see. People complaining about our competitors. Is Abra Boost? No, that doesn't make sense. I've already addressed that. Why does the Abra Crunchbase page have the wrong Abra logo and say it's acquired by United Capital Finance? Henry, I don't use Crunchbase. I used to use it like maybe 20 years ago when TechCrunch was a big thing. I'll ask my investor relations team to take a look at it, and maybe we can fix it. Honestly, I didn't even know anybody used Crunchbase anymore. So I'll go fix it, or I'll ask the team to fix it. If it's something that really is us, maybe there's another Abra. I don't know. I mean, there are other companies named Abra in different businesses, but we'll certainly take a look at it. All right. I'll take one more. David just sneaked in a last question. Do I have any concerns about Circle's exposure to FTX? No, I don't. My understanding is on their actual coin, they must maintain 100% reserves, and they do, and they publish attestations to that effect. I may not be using the right legal term, attestation versus proof, whatever, but I've heard nothing to the effect that Circle has certainly reserve deposits on FTX. That would be crazy for a dollar-backed stablecoin. Okay, the Fed gets an F for sure. Okay, so as I said, we will be doing an update on CPerks and our NFT launch on December 2nd. And do me a favor, folks, if you're watching on YouTube, click the like and subscribe button. My team keeps asking me to remind you. Our viewer numbers have been up a little the last few weeks, but I don't see the subscriber number going up, and that's unacceptable. So you got to click that subscribe button. You'll get notifications. We won't spam you, nothing like that. We just want to know that people are liking what we're doing. Okay, so do that. And I also was told to remind you that you can actually download all of this so that if you go on your hikes, you can watch it, listen on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Spotify Podcasts. So if you're not sick of my voice yet, you can go watch there. All right. Okay, he's been waiting patiently. Thank you for your patience as well in the AMA. And do keep your questions coming. I'll try to focus on questions that are more related to my discussion with Amit, but we're going to bring him in now. Amit Sinha is the head of trading in our OTC, over-the-counter trading services at Abra. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Bill.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. And hello to everyone. Let me quickly introduce what we are offering at OTC Desk.
Yeah. So first, before you do that, what is OTC? So what does it mean, and what services are encompassed in a crypto model by an OTC desk?
Great. So OTC stands for over the counter. Now, in traditional world, you are used to going to an exchange and just doing something, buying your stocks over there, right? Yeah. However, for some asset classes and for some big sizes, this model doesn't work. Think about what happens if you go to a person, to an exchange and say, give me 1 million IBM stocks. The exchange doesn't have that liquidity, right? If you try to do that on exchange, you get a very bad execution, you get a very bad price. So the other model which has evolved, and this was very, very important in the credit world, is OTC model. OTC model is where you pick up the phone, you call people and say, hey, can you get me this size? Can you get me a good price on this one? And then it's on the other side to work with you. It's a high touch job. It will work with you to get you a great execution without moving the markets.
Yep.
So it's important that the OTC desk tries minimal impact on moving the markets.
So if I'm just to be clear, so if I'm trading, if I'm buying $50,000, I wire $50,000 to my Abra app, and I want to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum or Matic or something like that, or I don't really need over the counter to do that. I should probably just do it right in the Abra app, right?
You can do that, but you can also through your sales contact at Abra, you can ask OTC desk to do at it. If it's a good size, we will definitely get a better price execution.
Right. So good size means probably like a couple 100,000 and up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Something like that. Right. So we deal, I guess, in millions of dollars in trades now too.
Right.
And the goal, if you're buying, I just want to make sure I got this right. If you're buying $1 million worth of Bitcoin and you buy it in one chunk on an exchange, you're going to move the price of Bitcoin and you're going to be paying a lot more, right? Versus the spot tick you saw on the last trade.
Exactly.
Is that right?
And remember, OTC desk is in the market. So it's looking at both, like you are buying something, there might be another person who is selling something. The OTC desk knows this. It doesn't really need to hit the market for that. Like it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Yep, exactly. And so what are the kind of products that we're seeing demand for on the OTC trading right now? And where do you see it going next?
Yes. So OTC desk is a very important conduit for crypto world. Right now, we have launched OTC desk and we are servicing spot transactions. Spot transactions means I want to give you this currency and I want to buy this currency.
Yeah. So for those of you who are uninitiated in trading, we all have our own terminology for our businesses. Spot is basically just an insider way of saying I'm just buying and selling the actual asset itself. No derivatives, no fancy other products, just the actual asset. So it could be a stock, it could be a bond. In this case, it's crypto. That's it.
Yeah. So right now we are facilitating spot trading. We can facilitate any coins which you want. We have advertised the top 10 coins, but if you have need for any coin, definitely contact the sales and we will work with you to get the better execution.
Right.
Now about the future growth. We are working on offering other derivatives contracts to you, like options and some products which are really good for retailers, like covered calls, which will give you extra yield for whatever you are holding. So we will definitely deliver that. We are working on getting all the pipings correct. We are working to make sure all the risk management is done correct. So we are definitely working behind the scenes to get you the best service as soon as possible. We are also working on offering the same services for smaller size through an API or a UI where you can log in and interact with Abra. Or if you have a programmable surface interface, you can use our API to execute a trade.
Yep, got it. Somebody was asking which bank we use. My understanding is we've stopped using Silvergate for now, and we've moved to another bank. So this also answers a question I forgot to answer during the AMA. I don't have a personal problem with Silvergate. I just think out of abundance of caution, just given some of the commentary online, we've at least temporarily stopped using them until we believe that all that stuff is stopped. But how are you wiring money into Abra today to do your OTC trades?
So in this case, you will work with our salespeople and they will give you the wire account where you can wire it.
Got it.
The trading team, the risk management team is fully aware whenever there are delays or anything happening or any rumors in the market. We try not to tie up with one vendor or one bank to say that. So we will find avenues where you can do it in a more reliable way.
Yep. And then somebody was asking about the API. So why don't you, I know that's coming. So why don't we, Paul, thanks for teeing that up for Amit. So why don't we address that? I know you were going to talk about that next anyway.
Yes. So API is one of the more exciting interface for those of you who want to interact through your interface with Abra. Right now, it's in a testing phase internally where we are making sure that a trade gets executed properly, all the money is handled properly. We are looking at the risk management dashboards, checking all the piping. It will be delivered to you with proper docs, how to use the API with the proper security arrangement as to what tokens to use to authenticate yourself. And it will basically tie up with the OTC infrastructure inside, as well as for small volumes, it might just give you just a great price right away.
Okay. And who are examples of some of the folks that want trading APIs that would care about, just using an API versus the the web interface, or, picking up the phone and saying, buy my Bitcoin?
So in general, a lot of it depends upon your sophistication and your needs, right? If you are a person who needs a high touch service, or if you are a person who has a great big size to trade, you will definitely pick up the phone. Because in that case, somebody will handhold you for the big size. Somebody will work with you like round the clock to get you the great execution. However, if you are the sort of client or the sort of person who does 10 trades a day, 20 trades a day, getting on a phone for 20 trades is just not practical, right? In that case, you will want to use API. Or the third category will be people who are actually tech savvy and who want to use, like they have their own infrastructure and they want to get pricing from Abra also.
Okay. So we have a combination of kind of consumers and businesses here. So let me just address what an API is, because I realize we just kind of skipped that. So API stands for Application Programmer Interface. Basically what that means in English is that it gives you a way to access Abra through your own systems, your own computer systems. So let's say you're running a Bitcoin ATM network and you need to access a bunch of Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, USDC to be able to sell through your Bitcoin ATM network. You can hook directly into Abra's systems to execute those buy orders, and the crypto will be delivered to whatever wallet you tell us in the background, for example. Or let's say that you're a family office and you have like some Google Sheets that manage your positions, and you click buy and you want it to be executed automatically. You could connect, in theory, your Google Sheets to Abra's OTC desk, and it would automatically execute the buy. So when you hear the word API, generally what it means is your computers can communicate with our computers over a very secure connection and execute those orders, buy or sell and deliver, basically is what that means. Okay, so let's see. So let's talk about what's next, right? So what other demand are we seeing, and what is the implications of this for Abra?
Sure. So in the events of last week, one of the biggest demand we have seen is people going to Bitcoin or people going to stablecoins. That move might just be temporary, like you have to see the current environment and you have to compare it with what happened 6 months ago, or even 2 years ago when these sort of incidents happened. This time, the crypto industry has actually, it has responded in a very mature way. Like you don't see the same run happening in crypto, which happened last time, right? So this shows that people did acknowledge that, there was one bad actor and he gamed the system. But in general, they still believe that this is the right place to be in. So most of the people, what they have done, or the flows I have seen, is people converting to Bitcoin or people converting to stablecoin. But I don't think in general they are thinking of moving away from crypto. The institutional demand is still there. A lot of big players are still putting in money. A lot of big players are still opening new hedge funds. So crypto is there to stay.
Yeah, I mean, our demand is certainly there, and the numbers have gone up significantly for us the last probably 100 days or so on the OTC front. I know we're looking at derivatives now, and that's something that our sales team's hearing a lot about, is people who want access to puts and puts and calls and other types of structured products, probably beyond the discussion here. I know we also, and you spend a fair amount of time on this, look at like kind of market commentary for our clients, and so why don't you talk about that? What are you seeing in the markets right now, and what's your I'm curious, what's your broader outlook for?
So Like I will talk from the crypto aspect. Before last week, the correlation between how crypto was performing and how the equity was performing, by equity I mean your Nasdaq and S&P, was great. It was almost like crypto was being treated as an equity.
Mhm.
If you look at last week, what has happened is that correlation has deteriorated. So after the last inflation print, the equity market took off. Like everybody is like saying, oh, now Fed is going to pivot, it's going to not raise the rates that much. So the equity market took off. However, because of the event risk in crypto world, the story in crypto world changed. Like, the assets are down like 10-15% just based on the event risk. In general, I do believe that correlation will again tend to get normal. A crypto will start behaving like equity at some point where the macro factors will be driving it again instead of the event risk which we are seeing right now. And among the macro factors, the biggest thing is what will Fed do, right?
Sure.
So right now there's a story going on that the inflation is fine, Fed might pivot, but then Fed is coming up with such confusing statements all the time. It's like, if you remember 1 year ago, they were saying inflation is transitory. That same Fed in 1 year said, oh, be ready to feel some pain.
Sure.
Right? How much can you trust that Fed is going to do the right thing?
Well, when you're a trailing indicator, how can
exactly.
how can you
Right.
basically give a viable opinion
Exactly.
on what's going to happen next when all you do as a company is, the Fed as a company, I guess they are a private company technically, they just report on what's already happened.
Yep.
And they're not out ahead of anything. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just it's I'm sorry, it's infuriating. It's as infuriating to me as what happened at FTX, because obviously, honestly, what happens with the Fed affects way more people than what happened with FTX. It's horrible. It's disgusting what they did, but what the Fed is doing is worse, in my opinion, literally worse. Yeah. Okay.
Like,
all right.
Basically, Fed keeps on waiting for labor numbers to turn down, the inflation, the studied inflation to come down and then react. It might have missed the boat.
Yep. Yeah. Incredible. There was a chart that I wanted to show. I don't know if I closed it or not. I may have closed it, but Raul had a chart where he basically showed oh, here it is. I got it. I'm going to bring this up, Mr. Wizard. So give me 1 second. So this is, one of the really most telling charts, and I've showed you this before. Basically, where the Nasdaq is a leading indicator for ISM, and if ISM is basically the predictor of recession, 38 on the ISM, which is the Institute for Supply Manufacturing survey. Basically, it's an absolute value showing the relative health of the economy in real time. If this gets down to 38, which is what the Nasdaq 100 is predicting, we're in deep recession. Okay, so the point is that the stock market really shouldn't be getting that much lower because it's always been a leading indicator of where we're going. But the ISM will most likely plummet, and then the Fed is going to have no choice but to pivot, regardless of what they're saying. I'm not a full-time economist. I don't pretend to be one. I look at this and go, I can study this for a few months, a few years, and I get it. It's not that hard. And so I don't even know if you have an opinion on this, but why are they so wrong at getting, or so bad at getting ahead of this?
So I think the biggest thing is they are from academics, like they are from the academic world. Like this is what they have read. This is how they make their decision. It's a flow chart for them. If this goes here, this goes here, this goes here, do this. That theory hasn't changed. And if the theory is based on lagging indicators, it will continue be lagging indicators, and I don't see them changing anything. Right. So, like, just talking about this, so during the COVID time, the shipping rates were 6 times the normal standard deviation. So shipping rates are, you can say, the leading indicator to your supply chain issue, right? If the shipping from China to US doesn't happen, inflation is going to go up, right? The demand is there, the supply is not there. The shipping rates are back into standard deviation now. So basically, the shipping channels are opening up. The supply chain is opening up. Inflation should get into control. But if you keep on seeing at the number and then make your policy, you might be slow to react.
Yeah. I mean, look, supply chain disruptions have been a big part of why, why we're in this mess. The Kansas City Fed, I'm just looking at this in real time, the 6-month manufacturing survey supplier delivery time, that time is now plummeted to be negative. What does that mean in English? What that tells you is inventories are going through the roof. On Money Talks, I've always said, watch Walmart, because the discounts that are coming because we overshot the mark on supply chains now, which means inventories are going through the roof, which means all the rubber dog shit that we're importing from China is going to be worth a lot less because they have more of it than they need. And basically prices are going to plummet. I don't see how that doesn't happen. But again, the broader point is, hey, this is just Bill paying attention. I have no magic wand. I'm a reasonably intelligent guy. They're supposed to be smarter. They're supposed to be doing nothing else. It's crazy. Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
And anything you want to end with? Because we're out of time, but this was awesome.
I just want to say we are here to help you. The OTC desk is there. Definitely reach out to the salespeople if you need our service, and we will be there.
Awesome. Amit, thanks for joining. Really appreciate it. We're going to have you on again, and we love having you at Abra, and keep up the awesome work. So I'm going to close this out here. Say goodbye to Amit. Thanks, Mr. Wizard. And look, so I do see some other questions that we didn't get to. A lot of comments on the Fed. This is great for Bitcoin. Joseph, I agree, it's great for Bitcoin, but that doesn't mean the Fed's job isn't to pump up the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin's going to do long-term what it's going to do. The Fed may make that a self-fulfilling prophecy faster. That's not their job, right? Their job is to do their damn job. And then right now, in my opinion, they're not. Paul, I'd like to see that chart as well, back to the 1990s on ISM versus NASDAQ. I'm guessing that I have seen earlier versions, but I don't know. I think it holds. And I think if you look at what happened in .com, it wasn't just irrational exuberance. It was basically low interest rates coming out of the crash and the recession post Bush 1, and which basically led to a bubble and those assets, which is what we saw the last couple of years. Okay, thanks again to Amit. Thanks to all of you for asking so many awesome questions. Like I said, we've done over 100 of these now, and we will keep doing them. All of a sudden, it's become kind of a mandate from the public that the companies that they're trusting money with get out and talk publicly. Well, guess what? We've been doing it for years, and we have no intention of stopping. So speaking of stopping, so next week is Thanksgiving holiday in the US. I do want to do a Money Talks on Friday. I haven't discussed that with my team yet, even though it's a holiday. So bear with me while we figure that out, and we'll publish. If we don't, it's because of the holiday, but I do want to do it, and it may just be me without much support in the background, which is totally fine. We don't need the fancy graphics. We'll just talk. All right. So in the meantime, stay safe. Take care of yourselves. Do what's right for you. Right. One of the questions I got, which I didn't talk about, was, is this a good time to to invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum? And I didn't really feel it was appropriate to be talking about that when everybody's worried about, who's going to be next with this contagion. My take is that if you focus on your own time horizon, if you focus on understanding the basics, and you have conviction that Bitcoin's going to 10x, but it might take 10 years, then you should only invest what you're comfortable with over a 10-year time horizon. If you're an active trader and you're worried about the next 3 to 6 months and you can't afford to dollar cost average in, then you should act differently. But I'm dollar cost averaging in every chance I get into Ethereum and Bitcoin because that's what my conviction is, right? But you need to decide what's right for you. And that's, I've consistently said that on Money Talks. My Petfish asks if we can buy XRP via over-the-counter. The answer is yes. Just contact sales through the webpage that I showed you earlier, and they will get you set up. All right. Yeah, I agree. 10x in 10 years would be awesome. All right, we're going to stop there. We're 5 minutes over. Don't mind doing it. Love the questions. And we'll hopefully see you next week on Money Talks. Definitely see you on December 2nd with Julian talking about C-Perks and NFTs. Really appreciate the kind response to the Q&A today. The team spent a fair amount of time in the background helping me make sure we got all the answers right. So thank you to everybody online helping me out. It's not just Bill here. We've got a team behind the scenes. So, all right, have a great weekend, everybody. And hopefully we'll see you next week on Money Talks.